What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back, baby, once again with a brand new episode review as we're diving into Bakuage Sentai BOONBOOMGER, episode number 2. Couldn't have come boon enough, but we're certainly here, guys. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding, as I certainly was out of town this past weekend, so I didn't get the opportunity to dive into this review earlier like I certainly wanted to, but we're here nonetheless, guys, so I definitely appreciate you guys certainly coming back for more. If you guys like your long-form reviews, this is certainly the place for you guys. I may be experimenting with reaction videos for each episode. It may not be posted on YouTube, but it may in fact be posted on our TikTok at Hero Report. So definitely go ahead and follow us over there as well. I'll see if I can put something together and post that up here, if not tomorrow for you guys. Certainly check us out over there as well. But let's go ahead and get into episode number 2, man. Another solid episode, certainly another enjoyable one. And I think what really sticks out for me the most in this episode that I want to highlight is just the relationships that everybody have with each other. I find them rather interesting in regards to just how mysterious they are right now, as it seems as though Taya has links to several people in here in some capacity. Like they very much are teasing a lot of relationships between people that will eventually come a boon boomger themselves, and maybe even teasing how Ishiro and him certainly wind up meeting. So I find it really fascinating, just the dynamic that we have with a lot of these characters that were highlighted in here. And if there's anything that I take away, like the more I really enjoy Mira as a character, but the more and more I view her, I very much view her sort of like as the perspective of the viewer, like as us, right? Kind of being thrusted into this environment for the very first time and seeing all these cool and wonderful, neat things that she sees, right? Like there is a sense of wonder that she has that as a viewer I find really enjoyable because that's kind of how I'm viewing this series also. Everything is new to her, it's unexpected to her. She's learning as she goes. And so her enthusiasm is very infectious, especially for me as a viewer. And I really feel like she is the POV, if you will, the point of view of this series that viewers are certainly supposed to view this series in. So I really continue to really enjoy Mira in here, and I was really fascinated in just the clash that we already have between some of these characters, especially when it comes to Mira and Ishiro. If anything, I think we can kind of usually expect those in a Super Sentai season, like who's not going to certainly get along with who. I always think that's a pretty fun dynamic. But to see somebody that's an established Boon Boomger already kind of pushing back on allowing somebody in. I find that stuff pretty fascinating. But let's go ahead and dive into this, man. Episode number 2 review will really sink our teeth into it. There are a lot of questions that I have after watching this episode. I continue to really enjoy Boondario. I'm not sure exactly who the voice actor is for Boondario, but it sounds like super familiar to me. But regardless if I've heard this person or not in past stuff, I really like the voice and the way that he really brings that character to life. So he's really growing on me in here. But I don't necessarily think Taya is as straightforward as we think that he is. There is a sense of mystery behind him that I think there's a lot of things teased in this episode that I think we'll eventually get an episode focus on, or we'll eventually learn about. One, how does Taya have all this money? Where does he secure all these funds from, right? How does he even know the procurement guy that he winds up getting to go ahead and purchase the trash yard? If you watch Taya closely, when he's trying to explain to Mira the idea of like how him and Boondario met, there's a moment where he's explaining it and then he kind of pauses and he thinks, and then he continues his story like he didn't miss a beat, sort of thing, with a little bit more enthusiasm. But that quick sort of hesitation to ponder makes me truly wonder, how did they meet? Was it in a really terrible circumstance sort of situation that they stumbled upon each other? Was it something that just happened by accident that maybe Taya originally didn't want to have happen, right? Like there is more, I think, to Taya's story than he's certainly letting on. The brief tease of his origin story, if you will, of how he wound up meeting Ishiro, Ishiro breathing heavy, me, almost like either he was in a battle or he was doing something and wind up getting caught by Taya, and Taya kind of being impressed with him. It almost makes me think like, was Ishiro sort of like a thief trying to steal something from Taya? Were they both trying to steal something from the same person and he wind up getting caught? Like, I really don't know. I really have no idea, but there just seems like there's more to the story and to the relationships of how all these people wind up coming together that isn't maybe as straightforward and as simple as they certainly might want us to think. And the fact that you got somebody like Mira that's really curious, asking a lot of questions, sort of thing, right? It feels like, I don't want to say that they're beating around the bush, but it feels like there's either something to hide there, or the way that the writers are just expressing the story, they want to just add that sense of mystery and eventually have things revealed. So look, I'm definitely expecting more origin stories, but again, the relationship dynamic of how everybody's connected in here really fascinates me, and especially the concept of Ishiro, one not being the fondest of Mira being part of the group, calling her flippant in the sense that, look, she's really not taking this role very seriously, sort of thing. I don't think it's a jealousy aspect there. Like, there's a part of me that really wants to question the idea of like, what's the relationship between Taya and Ishiro? Is there something there? Is there a more intimate bond between these two? And the idea of him mentioning the idea of like, look, when I like certain things, it never really fails. And he's like, yeah, well, that's the problem, right? Like, you liking certain things or something along those ideas. But clearly, if Ishiro knew anything, I don't necessarily know if that's the route that they're certainly going, but clearly he is not fond of just bringing anybody on board, sort of thing. Or maybe it's the case of, maybe if they did have bigger plans, maybe she, I don't want to say is thwarting them, but is putting a wrench sort of in their original plans that they certainly had. But I don't know, it's fascinating. And to add to that intimacy between these two, the fact that in episode 1, I was like, I don't know why the subtitles keep calling him Chishiro, right? Like Chiss, like Chishiro. And he winds up even correcting Mira in here, who calls him Chishiro, and he says, no, it's Ishiro. Don't get too friendly, or don't get friendly, sort of thing, right? Almost to imply like, unless you know me, unless we are like this, right? Or like we're friends, like that's like a nickname that you just can't use for me, sort of thing. So the fact that Taya gets to use that name for him whenever, I don't want to say it's like a pet name, but clearly they have a bond, is really what I'm trying to emphasize. Is that, to me, there seems like there's more there than certainly meets the eye. And there are elements, and again, this is just way too early to even compare, but there are elements to like Joe and Marvelous from Gokaiger, sort of like that unbreakable bond sort of thing. Granted, they probably met each other completely different scenarios, but for some reason, when it comes to Red and Blue and them having a strong bond, that's the first group that's the first set of people that come to mind here. So we'll be interested to see how that develops. And I also love the idea too of how Taya kind of takes Ishiro's ignoring of Mira and sort of turn it around on him, in the sense of like, the only reason why, see, he didn't necessarily run away from the plan. Like, there was a plan, but he didn't run away from you and leave you behind. He knew that you were capable of holding him off and like buying some time. Well, he went ahead and pulled off this plan, and that is definitely not what Ishiro was certainly doing. But the fact that Taya really flips it around in order to make Mira feel a little bit more appreciated and certainly part of the group, and maybe help that bond between Ishiro and Mira a little bit and soften it up a little bit, I thought was actually a pretty brilliant plan. So look, Taya clearly has a way with words. He clearly knows how to I don't want to say get people to do what he wants to do, but he's definitely a smooth talker in that sense, of being able to get people certainly together in here. And I find it really fascinating. So again, I don't think Taya is as straightforward as we think he is. I think there's certainly more to him. I think it was a little bit too weird and way too quick for him to get the procurement guy to go ahead and drop off a check at this trash place, immediately purchase it from him, and it's automatically be ready within like the next 2 to 5 minutes for them to go ahead and drop this guy off. So the sequences definitely went by way too fast for me, but it does show you the type of leverage and money that Taya definitely has. Look, outside of that, the action sequences continue to blow me away. You know, I said this before in episode 1, I knew that the suits were going to grow on me, and discovering just the wheel design on the suit especially, I was a big fan of them on the boots. It blew me away to discover them also on sort of like the shoulder blades as well. But seeing how they've been utilized so far has been incredible. Like, I love seeing Ishiro use the tire and kick it off his heel or kick it off his ankle and use it as a weapon. All the sort of sliding into the scenes I think is pretty badass. Seeing Mira use them to like reverse as she's kind of being sucked up by the monster of the week sort of thing was a really cool look as well. And it just adds a really cool speed dynamic, hitting some quick angles, some sharp turns during battle that I think really does go a long way of highlighting and making these suits look even more glamorous, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm a big fan of what they've been capable of doing with these tires, and really adding a speed aspect to a lot of their attacks to really go along with sort of like that crank it up sort of motto that they definitely have. So the action sequences definitely deliver. The character work I think is really growing on me too. Strong writing, another enjoyable episode. Again, nothing that's blown me away yet, but enough to definitely continue to get me to come back for more. That opening sequence, I'm so glad we got that opening sequence. That is a banger. Like, it is a bop for sure. I absolutely love it. I was a big fan of Tokuger's theme. I think that's probably still one of my favorites. BOONBOOMGER might just be right there as number 2, like right behind it sort of thing. I'm a really big fan of the opening sequence. And look, I don't really care for end sequence songs, honestly, but the dance is pretty simple. I can see a lot of people doing that dance at like Power Morphicon or some shit if they wanted to get a big group of people together. But definitely an easy dance to pull off. But yeah, man, the roll call, even better than last week's. The fact that this time we had sort of special effects added, Boon Red, Boon Blue, Boon Pink, and seeing them kind of like literally skating down this highway or the road with their boot tires kind of spinning, really adds a fantastic dynamic to it. So yeah, man, they added a lot more to this episode to really make it kick for sure even more. So I was definitely a big fan. You know, again, I am kind of curious when it comes to the villains and when it comes to them at least getting into their mechas. Like, is that going to be sort of the situation every week where the villain comes and he sucks up the gasoline, he jumps onto the highway, and then the BOONBOOMGERs got to kick him off the highway in order to bring him back to the regular world and have them create the large sort of villain sort of thing? I am kind of curious what happens when the roles are certainly reversed and one of the BOONBOOMGERs eventually go over the edge. Does that mean they just are thrusted back into the world also, or are there different ramifications for the BOONBOOMGERs to fall off the highway? So I will be interested about that. Again, didn't really care for the villains here this week, honestly. They really feel like just the lowest subordinates. I mean, the fact that they don't even have direct contact with like the general himself, but they gotta go through like a commander in order to get their orders from the general. I believe this was Commander Mad Rex, if I'm not mistaken, that they were certainly talking to. So, you know, look, the idea of sending down like your dumbest subordinates to go ahead and take over the planet, I feel like we'll probably see the commander here within the first like 5 to 10 episodes as he realizes like, man, maybe I need to go ahead and take care of this myself, because they just seem like they almost like they might as well be villains of the week themselves. So I haven't really seen anything from them to really impress me, but a lot of the great impressions have definitely been left by the characters themselves, along with the great action sequences and the henshin sequences and the Zord battles in here. So sign me up, man, for episode 3. I'll definitely be back next week for you guys also. But look, at the end of the day, these are just simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. Is there something that I missed in this episode that you guys want to further go ahead and talk about? Let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below. And yeah, guys, I'll certainly see you guys next week. So until then, do me a big favor, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll see you, Boon. Bye.